High FM, 101.9 megahertz of life.
Joining us this morning is Craig Pantanowitz, chairperson of the South African Zionist Federation. Craig, good morning. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're well.
Good morning, Howard. I am extremely well, thank you, and a very good morning to all of the listeners.
So I imagine that you had the same, or you went through the same thought process. You know, it's like denying something so absurd in a way gives it life, but at the same time, when it appears on the front page of the Sunday Times, you might have to do that. Take me through your thought process here.
Howard, yeah, I agree with you completely. The reality that we actually have to defend Israel in a space like this, I find incredibly ridiculous. The statements made by the minister were sweeping, ridiculous, with zero evidence to back them up. And the fact that we need to talk about this or defend the position is incredibly ridiculous. Having said that, I feel that it is my job, my role as the chair of the Zionist Fed, when accusations are made against Israel and against the state of Israel for meddling in another country's political issues, I think we don't have a choice but to stand up and confront it and to expose it for what it is, an absolute lie. The sad part, Howard, is that media globally are very happy to publish almost as fact sweeping statements which have zero base in reality. And I think that it's incredibly disturbing that such widespread publications like the Sunday Times don't question or use any journalistic integrity before making headline news that with something as ridiculous as this. And I think we need to highlight a couple of things, if you'll allow me, Howard.
Yeah, of course.
Number one, the claims that Israel involved in the June 30th march have been backed up by zero evidence whatsoever. Number two, the statements made by the minister do a lot of harm, Howard, to both the foreigners that are being attacked in South Africa, as well as undermines the integrity of the South African people, where they're genuinely going to government with a real concern, Howard, where our borders haven't been manned.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It completely diminishes and undermines the very issue that people are marching about.
Absolutely. And, you know, what you're basically saying to the South African people is, stuff you. What you're bringing to the table in terms of grievance for where your government has clearly failed you dramatically, well, we'll just shift the blame onto something else completely. We take zero responsibility. And Howard, all it does is it jeopardizes further lives and creates a space where obviously Israel needs to now defend itself when accusations like this are made. But it does very little for the South African on the ground, and it does very little to protect the people being attacked. And those are the two parties that are important here.
What are the avenues that are open now? Because there's two aspects here. One is the fact that there was very little journalistic integrity in the sense that this was published as though, as you said, opinion is fact, and a minister, you know, of such a caliber making this comment. So there's the actual publication, and I'm not sure that there is anything to do there, but I'm curious to hear. And there's the minister herself. Is there recourse?
So, Howard, the recourse is difficult. Obviously, from our perspective, you know, we were, I don't want to say kindly, but we were granted the opportunity for a right of reply in the Sunday Times, which we appreciate completely.
Right.
The fact that they gave us an opportunity to share our side, you know, we're obviously grateful for that. And having the opportunity to share your voice is critically important. So we did exactly that. We did write to the Sunday Times, and they published our article.
Yes.
And in that article, we'll explain why the statement by the minister are complete nonsense.
Was so problematic.
We call on her to retract them. Or
furnish
even more
evidence.
importantly, Howard, we call on her to show us the evidence.
Absolutely.
Take the evidence to the relevant authorities and let it be investigated and interrogated. And if Israel is to blame, then we need to stand up and deal with that. But there is no evidence. It is completely far-fetched. And so we have called on the minister to retract. There have been numerous articles published over the course of the last week, basically calling this out for what it is. And we continue to lobby various political organizations, as well as talking to the various people that we work with to try and bring some semblance of normality to an absolutely ridiculous situation. Howard, the sad part is that you spend your time and resources defending yourself against sweepingly ridiculous accusations instead of doing real work, and that's really pathetic.
Is there any recourse within within government itself? I mean, will any of the other political parties take it up? Is there a way to push this forward so that members of parliament and government know that making dangerous statements like this has a consequence?
Oh, it's very, very tough. I think that our history and experience with the current government hasn't really instilled us with a lot of confidence that they take what they say too seriously. So I think that that's really difficult. There have been calls on the minister. There were previous statements by Minister Lamola where similar accusations were made. And again, zero accountability. And I think that that's the point, Howard, is that the current government, the ANC, are not accountable to anyone other than themselves. They've done incredible damage to South Africa. They're doing incredible damage to their foreign policy continuously, and there is no accountability. So you can say whatever you want, make any accusation you like with zero accountability. And then, again, you're not even accountable to your constituents when they bring grievances to the table that are incredibly serious. They talk directly to economy, to people being able to put food on their table, to safety and security, and again, sadly, zero accountability.
And I imagine that you've had no response from the minister.
No, unfortunately not, Howard. It would be wonderful to be able to understand from her perspective, where she even came up with this idea that Israel was involved in something that's been going on since when? 2009, when people sadly lost their lives. So no, we've had no callback from the minister, and we've had no retraction of the statement to date.
Absolutely incredible. But as you said, it's critical to respond, and it is unfortunately what is required. Whether it and maybe on some level it does work, because maybe just the publicity of a response in the Sunday Times, a response in other publications, potentially embarrasses the minister. At least I would hope so. There was also, we saw quite a lot of anger from those involved in the march, because, as we said, it undermines it. And I would imagine that if there is any pressure that would make a difference, I think it would be from that area. So, sorry, yeah?
My apologies to interrupt you, but I think important that even note that the organizers of the march have come out to distance themselves from this ridiculous statement. And, I think that their comment was actually quite apt. They said that if there's belief that Israel have been involved, they open themselves up completely to wide scrutiny. They will give access to their bank accounts to show that there's been no foreign interference. And this is a directly South African process that's taking place, and that there aren't any foreign actors involved. And I think that if this is coming directly from the people that are organizing the march, our people, our South African community, need to sit up and listen, understand what's at play here, not be clouded by nonsense, and realize the gravity of the situation, that people's lives are at risk. And this is a serious thing. It's not something to make jokes about or to make sweeping comments that have no
basis,
reasonableness, and actually create a lot of harm. So I think that is exactly where the power lies, in that people need to understand, communities need to understand how serious this is, and continuing lobbying and talking to government and explaining to them that their responses, their excuses are not acceptable.
That's where we leave it. Craig Pantanowitz, keep doing the great work that you are doing, Chairman of the South African Zionist Federation.